You've looked at your hands 1,000,000 times. They grip, they build, they feel, they hold. You've called them flesh, thought of them as tools, barely noticed them outside of action. But what if that's a trick? What if they're not just physical extensions, but sacred technology? What if your hands aren't just hands? They're codes, encoded geometry, symbolic architecture, alive with energetic pathways that ancient civilizations understood and modern science forgot. Because hidden in your palms, your fingertips, your gestures, is a language, not one of words, but of resonance. And the craziest part? Every time you move your hands, you're sending signals through the field, whether you know it or not. They've told you your body is meat, but your hands prove its meaning. Long before science reduced the body to bone and blood, ancient cultures treated the hands like sacred blueprints. In Egypt, priests raised open palms to the sky, not in worship, but in alignment, each finger channeling energy from specific constellations, each gesture unlocking resonance in the air. In Hinduism, mudras weren't decoration, they were commands. Encoded postures to shift mental states, open chakras, stimulate memory beyond thought. The Mayans carved hands into their temples, fingers arranged in strange, precise formations, not for art, but for activation. Even Jesus, Buddha, and countless deities are almost always depicted doing one thing with eerie consistency: hand signs. Not random, not aesthetic, intentional. Because they knew the hand isn't just flesh and tendon, it's a frequency interface. Your palms contain some of the highest concentrations of nerve endings in the entire body. They don't just feel, they read. They pick up subtle fields, store memory, and, through movement, shape the energy around you. This isn't mysticism, it's biology, it's physics. The very act of moving your fingers alters the space they move through. It bends air, it sends ripples through the ether. And your fingerprints, they're not just unique, they're keys. No two are the same because no two human codes are alike. They're how the universe scans you. But you were never taught this. You were taught to type, to text, to scroll, to use your hands without ever understanding them. Because once you start remembering their purpose, you stop being passive. You start transmitting. Think about it. What's the first thing they teach you to do with your hands in school? Write, point, fold. What's the first thing society trains out of you? Gesture, expressiveness, sacred movement. You're told to sit still, keep your hands to yourself, be polite, be neutral, be quiet. But that's not discipline, that's suppression. Because your hands aren't just expressive, they're directive. When you speak with them, you move energy. When you pray with them, you open portals. When you create with them, you embed consciousness into matter. And they knew this. The system, the machine, the structure that fears anything it can't control. So they taught you to underuse your hands, to fear what they could channel, to reduce them to repetitive tasks so you'd forget they were sacred circuits. But every artist, healer, mystic, child, they remember, even if only in flashes. Because deep in your bones, the code still pulses. Have you ever held someone and felt energy exchange with no words? Ever placed your hand on your chest and felt realignment? Ever waved goodbye and sensed a piece of you linger in the air? That's not metaphor, that's transmission. Your hands carry a living blueprint, not just to interact with the world, but to reshape it. And the moment you realize that, you stop scrolling, you stop numbing, you stop silencing your signal, you start asking, what am I really broadcasting? Because the world is listening, the field is listening, and your hands are already speaking, whether you realize it or not. If you're ready to start using your hands like the signal devices they are, hit subscribe, tap the bell, and reawaken the power no one ever taught you to trust. This isn't symbolism, it's structure. When you open your hands, you're not just exposing skin, you're opening gateways. The palms house minor chakras, not metaphors, energy nodes, designed to receive and emit subtle signals directly into the electromagnetic field that surrounds your body and the earth itself. This is why healers work with their hands, why Reiki flows through palms, why martial artists strike not just with force, but with intention, because every movement of the hand is an instruction to reality. Each finger connects to a different frequency stream: thumb, willpower; grounding, ether; index, direction, clarity, air; middle, identity, transformation; fire, ring, emotion, connection, water; pinky, intuition, communication, spirit. Curl one, you mute a channel; extend one, you amplify it. This isn't superstition, it's the foundation of Mudra science, a library of hand codes passed through ages to alter mind, body, and space without a single word. But they buried that knowledge, called it myth, wrapped it in religion, taught you only how to shake hands and swipe screens, not how to shape energy through intention. And yet, your body remembers. Why do you feel sudden electricity when someone touches your hand with presence? Why do certain hand movements in meditation drop you deeper than any mantra? Because your palms aren't passive, they're active transmitters, and when you move them with consciousness, you rewrite your field, you stabilize your frequency, you become a signal tower walking inside a biological shell. You don't need fancy rituals, just awareness, just presence, just the willingness to move with meaning, because the way you use your hands is the way you shape your reality. The question is, are you shaping or repeating? Let's call it what it is, a shutdown, a strategic generational disconnection, because if you remembered what your hands were actually for, you'd stop being predictable, you'd stop being programmable, you'd stop being manageable. So they did what all control systems do. They redirected the current. They kept you focused on your head, logic, intellect, language, but drained your awareness from your body. They taught you that power was in ideas, not in presence. That action meant typing, tapping, texting, not tuning, not transmitting. So the codes in your hands, they faded, not because they disappeared, because you stopped using them. They calcified, not physically, energetically, as if the operating system went dormant, waiting for conscious reactivation. And what happens when you start to remember? When you begin tracing the lines in your palms like circuits, when you close your eyes and feel the pulse in each fingertip, when you begin using hand positions not just randomly, but ritually, something wild happens. You start generating current. You start creating coherence. You begin moving through space like a magnetized field, pulling people, opportunities, visions, not through force, but frequency. Because when your hands come online, your life does too. You touch someone's shoulder, and they feel it for hours. You place your palm over your own heart, and trauma starts melting. You walk into a room, and the air shifts. This isn't charisma. This is remembered technology. You stop shaking hands just to greet. You shake them to transfer codes. You stop fidgeting out of habit. You move with design. You stop acting like a meat machine with 5 appendages and start functioning like the living signal you are. And when that happens, the system can't track you because you're no longer on its grid. You're operating on something far older, far clearer, and far more dangerous: authentic energy. And authentic energy doesn't obey, it transmits. This is the part they never wanted you to reach. Because once your hands come back online, you don't just interact with reality, you recode it. You don't just hold objects, you embed intent. You don't just gesture, you broadcast frequency. You don't just create, you translate source into form. Your hands become more than limbs. They become keys, unlocking dimensions of your being that were never supposed to wake up in this lifetime. Why do you think sacred texts describe the laying of hands to heal? Why do prophets raise their arms before speaking divine truth? Why do children instinctively reach out when overwhelmed? Because the hands are the original interface between the inner world and the field we live in. Not just for expression, for transmission. And when you begin using them consciously, a shift occurs. You stop just feeling energy. You start directing it. You sculpt emotion out of chaos. You stabilize fields around you. You sense timelines and alter outcomes, not with spells, but with presence in motion. Ever felt someone's hands before they touched you? Ever been held by someone and felt your nervous system recode itself? That's not affection. That's ancient code in motion, and it's not rare. It's dormant in you. Because here's the truth. Every movement you make with your hands sends a signal through the quantum web. Every clench, every open palm, every pattern of fingers either distorts or aligns your own field. That means the way you type, the way you cook, the way you reach out, the way you press your hand to your own chest is either broadcasting chaos or coherence. So imagine this. What happens when millions of people begin to move their hands with intention again? What happens when we stop hiding our codes and start activating them in public? What happens when the silent language of the body gets louder than the lies of the machine? Reality bends, not all at once. But like tuning forks sinking across space, the field begins to hum with a new rhythm. And those who can feel it, they follow it home. Because they've been waiting. For touch that isn't manipulation, for motion that isn't noise, for hands that carry truth. And those hands might just be yours. Take a breath. Look at your hands right now, not as tools, not as flesh, but as living scripts. Every scar, a signature. Every line, a map. Every twitch, every tremble, every stillness, a language you've barely begun to understand. Because your hands don't belong to this moment. They carry echoes of who you've been, of what you've touched, of what you've yet to unlock. They are the most advanced interface your soul brought into this incarnation, the original touchscreen, the transmitter of will into the physical. And here's the part no one told you. You've already been using them. Every time you reached out with love, every time you pushed away what didn't resonate, every time you traced the air while dreaming, you were coding, not metaphorically, literally, because thought is frequency, but gesture is command. And when you pair the two, intention and motion, you create living resonance. That's why rituals involve hands. That's why symbols are drawn. That's why even when words fail, a single touch can rebuild a soul. Your hands are not ornaments. They are transmitters of memory, architects of vibration, weapons of love, mirrors of your internal coherence. So now the question becomes, will you continue to use them unconsciously, scrolling away your signal, muting your movement with meaningless repetition? Or will you begin to move with meaning, to touch like a transmitter, to gesture like a god? Because when enough of us remember, the entire frequency of this planet will shift, not through war, not through protest, but through intentional motion. One hand raised, one hand placed, one signal sent with clarity, and everything ripples. You are not powerless. You've just forgotten how to program reality with your palms. And now, you're remembering. You made it to the edge. Now ask yourself, were your hands ever just hands? Or were they waiting, dormant, encoded, patient, for this exact moment of remembrance? You've always had the hardware. You've always had the codes. You've just been using them unconsciously, like speaking a language you never learned, but still somehow fluently speak in your dreams. The ancients left clues, not in books, but in posture, in gesture, in silence, in still hands held in mudras under moonlight, sending signals across time, across space, waiting for someone, you, to pick them back up. Because this isn't about belief. This is about activation. Your hands are living antennas. Your gestures are frequency scripts, and your palms are the final frontier between thought and matter. This is why healers don't talk much. This is why mystics often sit in stillness. This is why the most powerful forces on earth don't yell. They extend a hand. So now, the transmission ends where yours begins. You don't need to do anything grand. Just look at your hands, feel them, move them with awareness, with presence, with code. Because the reality you're in isn't waiting for a new algorithm. It's waiting for a new gesture, and it might come from you. So here's your question, the one I'll leave ringing in your palms. If your hands are transmitting energy every second, what have you really been programming into your reality? Drop your answer in the comments. And if you're ready to decode the rest of your body's hidden language, another video is already reaching for you. Not to teach, but to reactivate.